My name is Berit Anderson. I'm the COO of Strategic News Service and the Future in Review Conference. And I'm here today with Mark Anderson, who, in addition to serving as the CEO of SNS and the chair of FIRE, our conference, is also the founder of Invent IP, which fights nation-sponsored intellectual property theft. He has also briefed all of the three-letter agencies in the Five Eyes countries and Europe on China's national business model. And we're here today ahead of FIRE, our conference, which takes place February 28th through March 4th, online, virtually, to talk a little bit about Apple and how they have become beholden to China. Now, Mark, do you want to tell everyone kind of your thinking and how you see things?
Sure, Berit. And I think I'd start by saying beholden is too kind a word. Captive is the word I would pick. Apple is a captive now of China. And the simplest way to have this conversation revolves around a story that came out of The Information, one of our competitors, doing a good job. I always like to have good competition, which now has been picked up by many, many sources, in which it was explained there that CEO Tim Cook of Apple had done a secret deal back in 2016, promising at least $275 billion in help for the Chinese Communist Party, which is a breathtakingly bad idea.
So that's a large number.
When you ask, it's a large number over 5 years. Oh, by the way, he's renewing this year. So it's a good time to call him up and tell him to stop it.
Renewing this year, okay.
And without going into lots of detail, it occurred to me that essentially what he's doing is replacing Huawei in helping the Communist Party with technology. Since the United States government and our allies went after Huawei and humbled it and brought it down far below what it used to be, the party turned to Tim for help, and he gave it willingly. So we can go back into what that really means in terms of legalities, but we have a global corporation, which I think is an American company. I don't know, I got to double check. Last I saw, they were still in Cupertino somewhere. And they are doing all they can to help the Communist Party in return for money.
Now, when you say all they can, I think I've read the report. We know some of what they're doing, but can you elaborate on what that means? Should we be worried about security risks from our devices? Should we be worried about if we're running a company and someone is using an Apple device? Should we be worried about that device acting as a back channel?
So first of all this stuff is very vague.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the words I've seen are from an MOU, not from the actual agreement, memorandum of understanding. But the short story is yes. So Tim has already agreed to, as an example, violate American law by putting all of the Chinese at risk who use his equipment by putting the servers only in China, nowhere else. The question might be asked, do any of our messages go through China? I don't know. We're using Zoom, so I can tell you that the Zoom messages have already gone through China in the past. I don't think we have any security on Zoom at all.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way about Apple now. So can't say it for sure, but the level of risk has gone way, way up, knowing the lack of ethics and what I would call international legality that Tim has brought to the table with this secret agreement. It includes making investments in unknown numbers of companies that are startups, helping China become the best manufacturing country in the world, providing other technical leadership that is not defined, helping Chinese universities be better at what they do, whatever that might be, whether the military is involved or not, and then helping other companies do the same thing, as well as helping the CCP. There is no limit to this vagueness and what it may actually involve on the ground.
So what should you do? What should the average person do if they're hearing about this?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm an Apple user, and I'm right on the fence right now. I'm about to become a Samsung user, I think, because I can't believe how bad this is. And, you know, we used to say at Invent IP that we were in 1939, and we were looking at both how Britain was behaving in a perfidious fashion back before Churchill, and how IBM and other American companies like Ford were trading with Hitler on the way up into power. But now I feel like it was more like 1940 or 41. And Apple, you are Henry Ford. You are doing what Ford did, and you are doing what IBM did. You are making tanks for the enemy. And make no mistake about it, China is the enemy, and they think we are. They talk about it much more openly than we do. And so they already have a program to not use American stuff as soon as possible. It used to be called Made in China 2025. Now it has other names, but as soon as they can disengage from us, they will, in every technology market, while they recognize that technology is the battlefield. And Tim is giving them, apparently, it looks like whatever they ask for, plus money. It wasn't about the money. The money is just making it a little worse. It's really about all the other things that Tim will give them. So he's not alone in this. There are other companies. I'd suggest AMD is one and Intel is another. But certainly he is, in terms of secret deals that we know about, now, he is ahead of the pack. So Tim, if you're listening and you think you're a global CEO, I have news for you. You're not. You're an American CEO of a global company. And if you're confused whether you have a country or not, I guarantee that Mr. Ren and the other CEOs who are Chinese are not confused. And shame on you for being confused. I feel very strongly about this. We are actually in a war, and it's an economic war. And anybody paying attention knows that I'm not using hyperbole.
I do. I think that there is my sense is that there is a deep kind of moral discontinuity between a lot of tech companies actually around the world, where they feel that, I mean, partially because of perhaps quarterly, earnings reports and all of this, that they always need to do whatever they can to increase profits on a quarterly basis.
And the CEOs get paid for that.
Yeah, and the CEOs get paid for that. But what I think is interesting is that there is such a disconnect between, it's like people have forgotten the importance of history, right? If you look back, you referenced World War II. If you look back at that time, and everyone always says, why didn't anyone do anything about Hitler, right? Like, why didn't anyone stick up for themselves or fight back early on when they could, eat more easily? And I think we're seeing that right now.
Why did Ford make war materiel for Hitler's army? Even I think during the war. Why did IBM provide computers for counting the Jews who were on their way to the death camps?
And by the way, I mean, generally speaking, there is culturally there is a hesitation to make comparisons to Nazi Germany and World War II because the persecution of the Jews was so terrible and so atrocious. Right. But I want to point out that it's important to keep in mind as we're talking about this, we are also talking about a literal genocide that is taking place in China every day, with millions of Uyghurs being thrown into camps, essentially concentration camps, where they are.
That's right. We might ask Tim while we're going to be, conversing here online with him by proxy. Hey, Tim, how do you trade with a country where 1 to 2 million people are in concentration camps? Do you just not trade with that particular state or province? I don't think that makes any sense. That would be like in World War II, Berit, to go back, it'd be like saying, well, we're not going to trade with Dachau.
Right, we're in Berlin.
We're not going to trade with Berlin.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous on its face. So, I think to wrap this up, we are at war. Tim is helping the Communist Party. Stop doing it. It's over technology, which is the worst thing you could possibly do. And what I would call this is aiding and abetting the enemy. And there's a word for that, traitor. Stop it. Thanks, Tim. I hope you change.
So I wrote about this in the Global Report, the SNS Global Report last week. If you would like to subscribe, you can do so. We'll put the link in the bio below this video, and the details are below this video. You can also register for Future in Review, our upcoming conference. We'll put the link below. Hit the link to sign up. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks, Berit.